So in the opening scene of episode 7 of season 3 of The Walking Dead, Merle decides to channel his inner Jack Bauer and is interrogating Glenn on where the others are. And if you didn't like Merle before, you're definitely not going to like him now. Ironically enough, during this entire scene, I kept thinking to myself, oh, don't act tough now, Glenn. You had your shot and you blew it. You pretty much put yourself here. I wonder what Glenn's excuse is going to be when he gets to the pearly gates and God asks him why Merle was able to make it to episode 7. So while Merle is interrogating Glenn, well, more like beating Glenn half to death, Maggie is in the other Zombieland CTU interrogation room hearing the entire exchange. Am I the only one that noticed a stark elevation in Maggie's attractiveness in this episode? I mean, I always thought she kind of had this disgruntled sexiness about her, but there's something about this episode that just really took it to another notch. Oh yeah, she was topless in this episode. Back at the prison, Rick is staring at Michonne as she tries to give her best impression of the Save the Starving Kids with the bloated bellies face. In the arms of an angel. Oh, wait, that's the Animal Cruelty song. Anyway, Rick is staring at Michonne, kind of like, wait, so you really think that's a good idea? I gotta tell you, Michonne has a lot of faith in her zombie camouflage. Too bad it didn't work, because they started attacking her soon after. Now, I know I give Michonne a hard time, but I actually really like Michonne's character, and it really bothered me to see her having to fight off the zombies with her being injured the way she was, because we all know, but for her injury, Michonne would be taking care of these zombies with no problem. With that being said, it's pretty obvious that the writers of The Walking Dead are doing their best to try to get us to believe that Carl is Tori Nanaka reincarnated as a little boy, but I can't and I won't buy it. Not with that hat. Now, after bringing Michonne into the prison, Daryl breaks the news to everybody that he's found Carol. Now, I gotta be honest about something. I really didn't realize Carol was missing until the last episode when Daryl found her. I just assumed they didn't feel like dealing with her. Pretty sure I'm not the only one. But of course, leave it to Carol to be a killjoy and remind everybody that Lori is dead. I get it. She didn't know about it prior, but I mean, you can't help but hate her for reopening old wounds. I mean, like, hell, we already had to deal with Rick playing phone tag with his subconscious. The last thing we need is another sob scene over women who quite frankly deserve to die and who I would probably bring back to life just to kill again and then sue her estate to get back the minutes that I lost on my life for having to bring her back to life. It's kind of like having that one friend who's the last to find out about your breakup, and though you're at the point now where you're starting to go over it, they find out about it and want to rehash all the details like you didn't do that enough. Okay, so now it's pretty obvious that the writers of The Walking Dead are trolling the gun community. No, like seriously, because the firearm knowledge on the show is abysmal. The next scene opens up with a sentry on top of the Great Wall of Zombieland holding a rifle with a blatantly bent barrel. What is this, Wanted? You do know you can't really make bullets curve in mid-flight, you know. Back at Woodbury, we pick up right after the governor's Bang Bang Skeet Street with Andrea. And Andrea is acting all annoyingly pleasant. She's acting like a high school girl who just kissed her crush, which is really annoying and not really fitting for her typical "these boots were made for walking" attitude. Back to the prison. Back at the prison, Rick is interrogating Michonne, who's basically playing hardball. Can somebody please tell me why Michonne always talks like she's a runaway slave from the antebellum South? I don't know where they went, but if you look over yonder, you're gonna find them. Michonne is 2012. So after Michonne discusses with the group what happened to Glenn and Maggie, the scene cuts and now we're back at the prison in the CTU zombie interrogation room with Merle and Glenn. Glenn looks like he got into a fight with the jackhammer at this point. At this point, Glenn is going on and on about how Rick is going to come looking for him and Maggie, blah, 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 blah. If he would have pulled the trigger in the first place, you wouldn't be here. Back to the prison. So now the group squads up and gets ready to breach Woodbury. Now, right before they leave, Rick and Carl decide to have a heart-to-heart moment. I really didn't pay attention to anything that was going on because I just spent the whole time hating Carl. He has that Justin Bieber face. You know, there's nothing inherently wrong with the kid, but you just want to punch him. Cutscene, and now we're back at Mayberry with Andrea and the gay mad scientist who's trying to determine whether or not there are traces of our subconscious whenever we turn. I found the scene incredibly boring and anticlimactic, but I did enjoy the music. At the same time, Glenn is still in the CTU Zombieland interrogation room when Merle walks in with a walker and lets him loose on the restrained Glenn. It's at this point now that we're back in Glenn's comfort zone. You see, when it comes to zombies, Glenn does very well, but when it comes to humans, he's kind of a pussy. I gotta give it to him though. Merle put a pounding on him and he kept his mouth shut. Can't say the same for fucking Maggie. Now the governor's interrogating Maggie, and in true Drag Bauer fashion, starts off really nice and then goes completely ballistic after a period of time. Except he doesn't yell very convincingly and cuss a whole lot. Instead, he just goes completely and absolutely perv. I always find it kind of funny what you can get people to do in TVs and movies whenever you stop, pause for a second, lean forward, and then whisper in a deep voice, "Get up." Like there's something about talking really low and deep and slowly that just scares the shit out of people. I don't really get it, but I guess. Now at this point, the governor makes Maggie strip and goes into complete Chester the Molester mode, right up until Maggie takes away the one thing that most rapists and pervs desire in order to keep going. Their victims pleading and begging. This next scene really lets you know that the group has gotten real complacent in terms of dealing with the walkers. In seasons 1 or 2, there was no way that the group would have been surrounded by walkers the way they just got surrounded in this particular scene. Now, in an effort to get away from the walkers, the group has to turn and run and hold up in a shack, only to discover that there's someone actually living there. Now, keep in mind that the occupant was actually asleep at the time and wakes up only to find 6 people with guns and knives in their hands. So the guy goes into a panic, and being Michonne, she did the one thing she knew how to do best. She killed him. Wait, did the dude just say he'll call the cops? So what, were you sleeping during the entire first half of the zombie apocalypse? And what's with Tyler Perry's face? He always looks like he's about 10 seconds away from breaking out in tears. Oh, and don't try to act like you didn't hear Michonne call the governor Jim Jones. I mean, I heard it, so I know you did. So apparently I'm not the only one that sees the similarities. So back at the Jim Jones compound, the governor takes Maggie and brings him over to where Glenn is and threatens to kill Glenn if she doesn't give up where the other group is. Okay, ladies, here's a little bit of advice. If your boyfriend or your love interest has just taken a Rodney King beating in order to keep from telling or giving up information, let's try not to completely undermine it by giving them the information up in less than 2 seconds. I'm just saying. I mean, you can see it in Glenn's face. He's like, so I just got beat for nothing? Yeah. Thanks, Maggie. You're cute. But you're stupid. So, that there, folks, is the end of Season 3, Episode 7 of The Walking Dead. And Mr. Colion Noir, and I'm out.